Back.
Yes, the call has started.
All right. Stella, you have the floor.
All
So
right.
Stella will just stand in. Yeah.
Yes, so thank you all so much for joining. Good morning from Lagos, Nigeria. Good afternoon. Um to our other speakers that are joining. Thank you so much for coming on board as speakers for the fourth EPR Global Webinar. I would just step in for happy before other people comes along. And I see that we are still waiting for Rajaa to join and Mr. Lotzi to change his background. But we're really excited and happy to be having this conversation today. To everyone joining us from Lagos, from Nairobi, from Kenya, we say thank you so much for joining. You can also tell us where you're joining in from. Um, I'm joining in from Lagos, so you can put in the chat where you're joining in from. Our speakers too, you can just tell us where you're joining in from, so we know the number of people we have in the room, and we can get started. We can start networking, even if it's a virtual event. All right, I see Antoinette from Ghana. Nice to have you. Hello, Divine Grace. Good morning. We are happy to have you here. So, Toyosi is joining in from Lagos. Divine Grace is joining in from Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining. We just get right to it. The experience in public relations is some people on the call might be wondering what is experience in public relations? What is experience in public relations? Just like the name says, experience in public relations. So we want people to experience public relations for themselves. And I would take in consideration this story whereby a salesperson sells a product. If it comes to tell you that I sell this and this is very great, it's good for you. If you buy this, it will give you XYZ results, and somebody comes to tell you that I've used this product and it was really helpful to me, I'm wondering, who would you believe, the salesperson or the customer that have used this product or service? Antoinette, who would you believe in this case?
Good morning, Stella. Why are you
Good
looking for
morning.
me? Why are you looking for me as the first person? Of
No,
course,
I just wanted to get your attention.
uh, the person that has the experience is the one that you're going to believe.
Yes, definitely. So the experience in public relations was curated for people that have used public relations, have seen the impact of public relations in their personal brand and businesses, to come talk about the importance of public relations. It is not just a department or a function. It is very strategic and it is important for business and even governmental growth. So that is why the public relations came to being. And we are very excited. This is the fifth year of the experience in public relations. Last year, we brought the Minister of Tourism, Nigeria, and she spoke on the importance of countries presenting and representing themselves properly, especially in the global stage. And for the fifth edition, it has really been interesting because the lineup is fifth global webinars to commemorate the fifth edition of the Experience in Public Relations. We've partnered with LEAD, we've partnered with the CommsofAfrica. We're currently partnering with CommsofAfrica to deliver the summit, so that again the focus is reaching Africa and more emerging markets. That is what the experience in public relations is for. And it is also to equip professionals with the skills and the resources they need to be able to defend their work. So they're not just saying that this department is to build brand loyalty, without actually being able to quantify the impact of their work. Um, that is what the conference is about. And we are very excited that we have professionals in the room today that will be speaking on the importance of PR professionals being part of the boardroom. I see that our moderator and host, Ms. Kelly, is here. So, Ms. Kelly, I can hand over the mic to you. Thank you. Thank you, Antoinette.
Thank you very much. Please, can you confirm with a thumbs up if you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So we are starting. So good morning, good afternoon. Where you're joining us from?
The network is really poor, Kelly.
Stella, can you please pick up the conversation? Thank you.
Okay. Kelly, your network is really bad. I don't know if you want to join in again, but we cannot hear you. Okay. 1 minute, please. Okay, thank you. I don't see Mr. Cyril on the call because again, we want to appreciate Mr. Cyril, founder of CommsofAfrica, for collaborating with us to make this possible. He's supposed to give us like a partner speech. Mr. Cyril, I'm not sure he has joined yet. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you all very much. So we'll just get right to it. Please, our speakers, we just want a brief introduction of your name, what you do, so the attendees in the room get an idea of the talent and the insights that they will gain today. So I will be starting with Mr. Loyalty. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience.
Thank you so much, Hope. I hope everyone is good. Good afternoon and good morning. My name is Loth. I am a communications strategist based in Dar es Salaam. I do public relations and the communications, helping the government and the private sector in strategic communications per se. I am the co-founder and the former president of Public Relations Society of Tanzania, one of the national PR association, which is doing very well here in Tanzania, as well as imaging myself basing on the mentorship activities for the young and young of PR and the communications professionals in Tanzania, especially for the students in different universities in Tanzania as well. Thank you so much, and I'm so happy to be here. I am looking forward to contributions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Lotte. I hear you talk about students. We'll definitely be speaking more because we do have the PR Student Summit. So we'll definitely reach out to you to have the conversation. Thank you very much. Miss Antoinette, please, a little bit about yourself. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Antoinette. Sometimes I go by Annette. I am an internal communication consultant. My focus is on communication audits. I am also a leadership communication coach, and I work around career development and communication for influence for individuals who are looking to advance their career. I'm also the coordinator for Internal Communication Research Hub, hosted by the University of Florida, is something that people in the communication space in Africa would be hearing a lot more about. Something that I'm really passionate about, I am an NGO founder of a youth-focused nonprofit known as YSA Global. So YSA means Young Smart Africa. And we help young people, especially early career students, people who are doing their national service, to be ready for the workforce, to build skills, to build leadership, and we provide mentorship in that stead. I'm also an author and I have other interests as well. I'm excited to be here and to share a lot of insights around leadership communication. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Mr. Gyan, please, I'm passing the mic to you. Is it me? I can hear him. Can we confirm that we can hear Mr. I can hear him. Can anyone hear him?
It's muted. Mr. Ian, you're muted.
You can hear me?
Looks like it's his network.
This side. I'm not muted this side. I am not muted.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Maybe I changed the network. Oh, because my audio is not muted. Can you?
Yes, we can hear you now, sir. We can hear you now. Yes.
Thank you very much. Please let me know once you don't hear me. My name is Ian Rumanyika. Greetings from the Pearl of Africa. I am a communication strategist here. I'm 10 years this year. I have been around for the last 10 years. Personally, I've been around for the last 18 years, supporting different organizations. And I've worked with the Revenue Authority. I've worked with the European Union. With DAI Global, specifically in the areas of communications. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so we can't hear you anymore, and we can see that your network is bad because we can see the notification from Zoom. But thank you very much, sir. I think you're done. There was sort of a break in between. Thank you very much. So I will just talk about the convener. Again, let me formally introduce myself. My name is Stella Okosiboje. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right, thank you. My name is Stella Okosiboje, and I work with the Public Relations Women Foundation as the Programs and Membership Executive. And if you're wondering what we do, the foundation is a global social impact enterprise, strengthening the practice, leadership, and economic relevance of public relations by building elite communities, globally mobile talent pipelines, and high-level capability platforms for communications professionals and institutions. The foundation is deliberately focused in Africa and emerging markets, recognizing the unique public relations and communications practices in this economy. It has definitely evolved, and we need to meet this societal and economic context. Through our initiatives, the foundation amplifies the voices and influence of professionals whose contribution have shaped the growth of the global peer professional. we deliver this mandate through 3 pillars, which is our communities, where we have registered members and country hubs, and the Premium Members Club for senior women in public relations and communication. We also have our mobile talent pipeline, which facilitates career continuity, institutional fit, and cross-border opportunities. And we have our training and convening. The expensive public relations is part of the convening, whereby we bring together business executives, government officials, public relations professionals to explore how communication drives economic and societal values. So we are very excited to have you, and we are very proud to be the convener of the Experiencing Public Relations. Thank you all very much. And then we'll move on to call on our technical partners, Tech4Dev. Tech4Dev has been our partner since we started the global webinar. They've helped us with the Zoom platform and all the technical aspect of the Global Summit. So Esosa is the content associate for Tech4Dev. So she'll just tell us briefly what Tech4Dev does and how the collaboration has been with Tech4Dev. So Esosa, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Good morning. So,
Good morning.
Esosa O2, like Stella mentioned, content associate at Tech4Dev. Basically what we do at Tech4Dev, we're a global organization, and we're focused on creating access to digital skills and opportunities for young people, especially women and underserved communities. So Tech4Dev is technology for social change, initiative, and development. Our goal is very much simple: to help people use technology to improve their lives, build careers, create solutions for real problems in their communities. That's because at Tech4Dev, we believe that technology is not just for a few people, it's for everyone. So that's why we run like different programs. We have the Women Techstars, we have Developers Foundry, and all of these programs comprises of different technological skills that we believe that people need right now in their lives to actually make it in tech. We all know that technology is taking over. So, and that's why even this year, we also infuse AI, artificial intelligence. So most of the skills that are being learned in these programs are also embedded with artificial intelligence. So just a balance. So nobody is left behind with what we're trying to upscale. We're seeing people using AI to build websites, to do a lot of things. So why would you want to be left behind to learn all these things? So one thing that makes Tech4Dev special is that we go beyond just teaching skills. We also focus on helping people grow personally, build confidence, build community, solve problems, and also become leaders in their community. So you can also check what we do at Tech4Dev across our social media platform. That's Tech4Dev, TECH number 4 and DEV. And it's been a wonderful time being the technical partners for this Experiencing PR Global Summit. Because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I don't want to join, but when I end up joining, I'll hear speakers and I'm also learning myself. So thank you very much for this platform. Thank you everyone for joining, and I really hope you have an amazing session today. Over to you, Stella.
All right, thank you, Esosa. We were talking, we didn't see you were speaking, we didn't see your face.
The network here is bad, so I realized that if I turn on my camera, then when I'm speaking, it's going to break. So yeah, apologies.
Okay, I would have loved to see your face. All right, thank you. So our host is ready. Kelly, please over to you. We hope the network is better now. Thank you.
Properly now?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
You're taking a huge weight off my chest. I promise you I stopped breathing while waiting for your answer. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. And welcome, welcome, welcome to this amazing fourth webinar series of Experiencing PR. We are going to go straight ahead to a little bit of networking. We have already been soaked into what we are going to be doing here this morning. We'd like you to please greet us and tell us where you're joining us from. We'd like to please light up the chat and we want to feel the energy in the room. So please greet us and share where you're coming from. Can we have the chat being lit up? And while we're doing that, we just like to share a few guidelines with us. Oluwatosin from Nigeria. Hello, Oluwatosin. Lamide from Lagos, Nigeria as well. Hi and welcome. While we are doing so, please kindly note that the chat will remain open all through the webinar. Feel free to share your reactions and your opinions as we are going to be discussing. And also be sure to put your questions in the Q&A. We're going to have a Q&A session after the panelists are done talking. And in this Q&A, you can address the question to whoever, depending on the panelist who struck you most. And if you do not have any person to whom you'd like to address your question, you can just go straight to your question, and we're going to come to it when the time comes. So, Pwani from Tanzania, welcome, Pwani. Tolulope from Lagos, Nigeria as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We can keep having them coming. Johan from Gabon, le seul pays dont le nom finit avec bon. Welcome, Johan. Welcome. Stella from Nigeria, we see that coming. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for keeping the conversation going. So we've had our panelists introduce themselves, and we are going to go straight on to our conversation for the day. I know you've been waiting to see and to listen to what they have to share with us. We are going to be discussing under the theme Repositioning PR, Communicating Strategic Value into the Boardroom. And, you know, in our world today, getting communications and public relations a permanent seat at the boardroom table is one of the most impactful shifts a modern organization could make. For a long time, leadership has viewed PR as a technical firefighter or a megaphone to announce decisions after they were already made. So moving from an afterthought to a strategic advisor requires changing how communication is framed to executive leadership. In today's conversation, we are going to have the opportunity to hear from industry professionals such that by the end of this conversation, each and every one of us can have an idea of how they can truly walk or move in their space to make sure that in communication actually gets a foot in the door of the boardroom. And you've heard from our various panelists. We have Mr. Gyan from Uganda, Mr. Gyan Rumanyika from Uganda. We have Antoinnette Gyan, who is with us. We have Mr. Loth Makuza as well, who is with us. And we are going to start the conversation with a question. And I'm going to be addressing my first question to Antoinnette. Antoinnette, please, can you share with us? Many organizations are beginning to realize that employee experience and workplace culture directly affect business performance. Why should business leaders pay closer attention to internal communication and leadership engagement, according to your perspective?
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly. Good morning, everyone from Ghana. And Kelly, je vois que vous parlez un peu le français, c'est bien comme ça?
Yes, oui, je suis du Cameroun. On parle français et anglais ici.
Oh, vraiment? Ok, ah bon. Moi, je suis Daniel, mais je parle un peu le français. Okay, so, yeah. So everyone, the question that Kelly asked me, I actually had thought that would be the question that would come at the end when we've had a conversation around the boardroom and sitting at the table and everything. But it's also interesting that it's the first question, because one of the things that we learn in communication is that the employee is the first audience of the organization. The employee is the most important person because, of course, they get the work done. And unfortunately, in many circles, internal communication and the employee experience and what builds culture and trust and engagement, strangely, has been put to the back burner. And it's a big issue that affects the bottom line in a big way, because the employee who manages everything, they help in reputation, they interface with different types of audiences. All the stakeholders are the ones that also are driving, as I said, the work. So it becomes difficult that the employee experience is not taken into consideration. One of the bigger aspects of the work of communication professionals, and especially when we even think about leadership and the way they communicate with employees in the workplace, there are so many things that come into play. The currency for leadership is trust, right? So you can paste everything on the wall that we are an open organization, we believe in equal opportunity, we believe in the voice of the employee, we believe in this. You've pasted it on the wall. But the measure of that is the trust that comes through from the employee. So if you say, oh, we listen to everybody in the workplace, we do all of that, what is actually showing is whether when you communicate, it triggers an action. People come into your town halls, they listen to you, you send newsletters, they read it, nothing is done. Then that must tell you that there might be an issue. So, question that I'm asking is, what are the metrics? How are we measuring this employee experience? First of all, are we even paying attention? If we are paying attention, then we send newsletters, all of that. What is the action that comes out? What is it telling us? And so the nuances, we should even move away from monthly. We've sent a monthly newsletter, we do a monthly email, we listen to the voices of employees. How is information flowing? Is it flowing from top down alone? Is it flowing from bottom up also? Is it flowing sideways? These are questions that we need to ask. And the employee experience should be paid more attention to, not just in terms of quantities of what we do, but the qualities of the outcome that comes from what we do. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you very much. So we get here that the employee experience has to be paid attention to, and that the currency of leadership is trust. So when you need your employees to trust you and to be sure that when you communicate, when you put something out there, there's actually action. The reason why we started from this end is because those who handle the communication are actually staff. They are employees and they want to have a foot in the door in the boardrooms. And so you need to already have an idea of the dynamics between the employees and their employers. And to be able to go further on into our conversation today, we have a question for Mr. Rumanyika. Mr. Gyan, you've advised organizations across sectors undergoing transformation and large-scale change. And so we'd like to have your perspective on what you have observed about the relationship between effective communication and successful business transformation.
I hope my network won't disappoint me. Now, I've changed it 3 times. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending where you're tuning from. My name is Ian Rumanyika from Uganda. Greetings from Uganda. Can you hear me very well now? Awesome.
Perfect.
So thank you, Kerry, for that question. So yes, true, I have been part of change management and change communications in a number of institutions as a consultant, but also as an employee. We must agree that in every transition, strategic leaders use communication as a tool to listen, either to the traits that would stop progress or stop the change from happening, or to voices that will enable that change to happen. So usually we hear about something called resistance. People resist change, and that is a fact. But people also do not usually resist change. They resist the uncertainty that surrounds it, or surrounds that transition or that change. Therefore, communications now remains very vital because the silence, the feeling excluded when I'm an employee or when I'm a stakeholder and I do not feel included in the future that you're trying to paint or in the future that you're trying to create, then the question of what is in it for me in this change start arising. And that's where now resistance comes in. So our duty as communicators and professionals is to interest ourselves in what is this change about, and then how do we support the transition. In fact, transition, Kerry, is founded on clarity and understanding the why. And most communicators do not really go to understanding the why, which is very important. So if the why is understood, then there's a likelihood that that change will win hearts. I was in Lagos last year to support the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition in change communications. And we are doing a project on digital fortification quality. I don't know who comes from. Stella, you come from Nigeria. There's a project I was supporting last year on digital fortification quality and traceability system, which is a platform that enables GAIN, the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, to track vitamins in that ingredients that are put in a number of products. So, and the success of such a system will only be determined if the stakeholders have been taken through like 4 stages. 1, do they understand the need for this change, for this system? Do they understand the why that system is needed? We also held a number of user sessions for those that are going to use the system. Do they understand why the change is being introduced? Otherwise, then you lose and then you're resisted. So that's the role of communication. But also, what is the motivation for them to participate in such a change or to support the change that is you're trying to introduce? Let it be internally or externally, and Antoinette will agree with me that most changes that are introduced internally, the employees resist them because they do not understand what is in it for them. So we must be able to have strategies that motivate those audiences or stakeholders to understand that this is what it's going to solve or this is the solution. What is in it for the different stakeholders, maybe government, users for the system in Nigeria, so that they will enable adoption, because the end result is to make sure that people adopt. In fact, the objective of that system was to see 90% adoption rate at the end of the implementation of the project. But that cannot happen if there's no strategic change communications. So we engaged a number of stakeholders like edible oil producers to be part of the supply chain change management process. But also, most importantly, there is what they call knowledge. Is this information on this transition, on this change, on this system, is it understood? Have we provided enough information to empower the users to understand why that DFQT system in Nigeria is being introduced? So that you can introduce, for example, a campaign that probably the users that have used the system can testify that the system really works. Then you can rally people behind it. But also, most importantly, is that most times we assume that the skills are available. Do we have the right skills, the behaviors that are required to implement this change? The ability of the users, the ability of the stakeholders. So that's why capacity building sessions are coming for all stakeholders. And that is not the role of anyone else, but communicators. Do they understand that through the change or through the transition, let it be leadership transition, let it be system transition or people transition, do they understand that people must be taken through a phase of change management? And that's called the ADICA model that we usually use in change communications. So it has been said, Kerry, that 70% of the large-scale changes in most organizations are resisted because they treat communication as an afterthought. Yet,
and that's very true. Communication. Thank you, Mr. Gyan. communication is being treated as an afterthought. And before you develop that other segment of your discourse, I would like to just come in and summarize a little bit for our listeners what you have just said, which is very pertinent. We are talking of repositioning PR and communicating value to the boardroom, but you've called our attention to the fact that there's an importance for the communication person themselves to show interest in the mutations happening in their space and in the organization. And after showing this interest, to be able to internalize it and be able to be the ones to transform it into an information that the others can then internalize as well and be able to act upon. You've spoken on the fact that it's important to understand the need for the change. It's important as well to be sure that we have enough information provided such that we have the users being empowered to take on the responsibility of doing their own part of the change that is coming, and that it's important to also have to check if we have the ability to implement this change. So comms professionals are not just to request for a new kind of power or a new kind of status if they themselves do not bring into that boardroom the value that is going to make the boardroom be sure that they are actually bringing a plus to their mindset and to their thinking. And that could go across sectors, whether private sector, development, government, and we want to talk about businesses as well. And I'll be talking to Mr. Loth Makuza with a question to know, as businesses continue to operate in a fast-moving digital environment, how can organizations protect credibility and maintain public trust while still remaining visible and competitive? Because we understand that when these changes happen, the companies don't close. They have to keep working. But the uncertainty Mr. Gyan spoke about is going to affect functionality and organizations' performance. So how do they navigate that process? Mr. Loth, please. Thank you.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My name is Loth Makuza, based in Dar es Salaam. Yes, it's true. And one of the biggest mistakes that the organizations today believe is that the visibility alone equals to credibility, something which is not true. And in reality, the visibility without trust, to me, I can say it is almost dangerous. Yeah, because over the past 10 years working in public relations and the communications, especially in strategic communications, so I've come to realize that organizations invest heavily in marketing, digital campaigns, online visibility, but still lose public confidence because what I can see is their communications lacked what we call the authenticity, consistency, and accountability. You know, in today's, what I can say, in today's digital environment, organizations are operating in spaces where information moves very fast than verification. And the audiences and the stakeholders we have are even more informed and are more skeptical, reactive than ever before. So the internal contradictions that delay maybe the responses or misleading the statement can even damage the reputation of many years that the organizations has been doing so far. So it must be built a daily through behavior, transparency, and consistency. So to respond to your question, that in order to remain trusted while still being in this competitive environment, first, communications must become even more authentic and human as well, because audiences today can easily detect what we call corporate language that feels the artificial or what we call the disconnected from reality. People trust organizations that communicate honestly, they acknowledge challenges openly, but engage with empathy instead of defensiveness. But also the organization themselves must align with communications in action. So one of the greatest reputation risk today is what communications call, what we call, in communication we say, do, give. where companies publicly speak about values, ethics, accountability, but you know what? Automatically it's different from what they are saying. And this has been one of the best obstacles. And in the digital age, employees, people like employees, customers, the stakeholders we have, because organizations and the companies have different stakeholders at all. So these people expose inconsistencies very quickly, and whereby the reputation is no longer controlled by one press release. It is shaped by what we call, you have to live it by example. But another thing, what I can see, Kelly, is the digital platforms has changed the pace of crisis communications completely. So the organizations and the companies cannot even delay, cannot afford what we call a delayed responses. Because in the previous years, companies could even stay for even 2 hours, 3 hours, or 2 days without communicating or being in a silent mode. But silence today often creates even more suspicious. The institutions must invest in real-time monitoring. They have to be even more proactive at all. The proactive communication systems have to be done. The leadership visibility, that has to be done. What we call the before narrative are shaped by the environment. But what I can say, another thing is organizations and the communications, the organization and the companies that have the department of communications or public departments, they have to treat it as, they should not keep on treating public relations or communications as a support function. They have to take it into a strategic leadership function, whereby it can even be taken into serious way. Because what I can say is communication teams must sit closer to decision-making table. Because if we can't do that, the reputation risk today may be in risk. Because what I can say is whether it's AI misinformation or public, what we call any public mistake, remember, employees dissatisfaction, even policy-related issues, communications have a direct impact to what the government, meaning whether the government or the private sector is going through. And finally, remember, technology must support what we call the credibility. So it has not to replace it at all. People nowadays, the companies, organizations relying on artificial intelligence, but remember, the artificial intelligence and automation, all these things are powerful tools to monitoring, even bring together the analytics, but they cannot replace the human judgment, the emotional intelligence, even the ethical decisions, because all these have to be done by human at all. So to sum up, yes, I think to sum up, I think we have to, the organizations that will remain competitive in the future, I think, are not those are necessarily who are speaking a lot every day, but those who are consistently building trust, communicate with clarity, but also who can even remain credible in the louder and the pressure days. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lothi. That is amazing. That's an amazing take. So we do understand here that companies, when we talk of businesses, they talk in terms of profit, they talk in terms of growth. And if they want to grow, they need to remain credible. And the persons who ensure that are those who are handling communication. And so they need to work hand in glove with the C-suite of the companies. Even if it's not businesses we're talking about, even if it's government, they have their targets. If it's development actors, they have objectives they would like to meet. And if they lack credibility, they'll definitely not be able to be deployed on the field and have public acceptance. So credibility is very important, and communication has to weigh of all its value in building this credibility for these businesses and these organizations such that they can continue reaching their targets and meeting their objectives? And you said something very important. You said companies today can no longer afford delayed responses. They need to communicate in real time, because when they do not do that, that space is filled up very fast with misinformation and disinformation. And when we talk about such issues, I would like to come back to Antoinette, who has been speaking to us. And I would like to know, Antoinette, in your experience working with organizations and leadership teams, what distinguishes companies that successfully build high-performing cultures from those that struggle with alignment, trust, and employee agreement? Because we do understand that the comms persons will only engage that far if they really feel that they have stakes in the game. So how would you say this should be handled? Annette?
Thank you, Kelly, for that. That's actually a very important question. And I want to break it down for people who are also not communication practitioners as well. You know, a lot of times when we think about communication, right, or even PR, there are two main roles of the PR person. What a lot of people know is the technician role, where the PR person does the writing, the event planning, all those other technical roles. And that's what a lot of people see, the writing, editing, going about with the engagement and all of that. And then there is the management role. Under the management role, we have the problem solver, we have the expert prescriber, and then we have the advisor. These three roles of the, and I'm going to throw shade at the PR people too a little bit, because we are not just going to say the management don't understand. We are also going to throw shade and say that do not just focus on the technical side, but start also focusing on the management side, particularly if you want to sit at the table, because that is where you bring value. You are giving advice, you are solving problems, you are building the systems that need to build those cultures. Now, the other thing also is that, so that is one side I want to speak to. The other side is that for communication people, we hold the stakeholder intelligence. So all that we do is about relationship building. So if we are building relationship, whether it's the media, it's the investors, it's the partnerships, it's the community, everything, everywhere that the organization engages, it is a case of relationship. You are able to engage because you've already built the relationship. So without this, you are unable to do the work that would ensure that you get the goodwill. When we talk about PR, the basics is that you are trying to gain favorable image or favorable, just like if you are at home and you had your parents and you wanted something from them, you have to have a relationship so that, like, for example, you have to be a good child, so that if you go and ask your father for something or your mother for something, they will give to you. So the PR person's role is to facilitate that relationship so that you have a good front with your investors, with your employees, with all of these over time is what builds the value that ensures that business flows. So when it comes to building culture, trust, engagement, all these important elements of the work, it's the consistency that continues year in, year out, walking the talk, that makes the difference. There is data from Towers and Watson 2023 that says that companies with effective PR practices are 3.5 times more likely to outperform their peers and have 45% higher total return to stakeholders over 5 years. Now, when it comes to these building the culture, the engagement. And in fact, culture is not something that comes over time. And this is one takeaway that I want people to go with, that when we think about PR, we need to think about long term. It's not anything that you are doing today and you're expecting results. So if we say culture, it is our everyday action and inaction that creates that culture, that builds the trust. So we have to be doing the right thing on a day-to-day. Leaders have to have their leadership ethos. They have to have their principles. They have to have their leadership presence. And this is something very interesting, and it comes out in communication audits, etc. The truth of the matter is that leaders spend 80% of their work just communicating. When you are technically competent and you've been promoted and you've come to leadership, majority of your work would now be to communicate with the teams, the individuals, all of that. That is what you are doing on a day-to-day basis. So leaders need to be trained on how to communicate, because every little step that they take is a part of their culture. Everything, whether it's with junior team members, mid-career, every person in the organization, they are building the culture. All the little things that we do to engage, whether we do the town halls, all these elements, the crux of the matter is that you are consistently doing the right things that you've said you will do. That is the basics of it. And you are bringing stakeholder intelligence to the boardroom. So wherever your stakeholders, and that is why I say that it is a sin. It is a sin to actually
Please, can we hear me? Because it seems we're losing Antoinette. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yeah, we can, please. But
okay.
Antoinette, I think is off.
Okay, we lost Antoinette for a second there. She was telling us about a scene, which should definitely be an information that we didn't have. And I'm so curious to know what is actually a scene for company culture. So Antoinette made us to understand that the work of comms and PR is relationship building. And executives, if we have executives in the house, please, you can just say hi in the chat. The role or the perception that executives should have of communication is that these are the people who make the perception of their image better in the faces of stakeholders. And so you need to hold them close. And this is part of how you build the company culture. You have your strategy, you have your KPIs, you have your ROIs, you have your targets, but there are persons in the room which are not sufficiently involved in the decision making who could actually help you get those targets faster and on a longer term, according to the statistics that Antoinette shared with us. And to do so, you need to make sure that they are part of the conversation to translate the information or the decisions or your thought processes to the rest of the organization such that it can move forward and move in the direction that goes in line with the values that you want for the company. So thank you so much to Antoinette for that. We understand comms persons. As comms persons, we understand how much value we bring in. And for the executives, we understand how much we may be losing if we are not taking advantage or leveraging on the assets that communications and PR actually is in every company. And talking about that, we would like to come back to Mr. Ayan Rumanyika. You had so much to say, and we see that we may have a little bit more time than we thought. So we are going to give you a little bit more room to share with us on the fact that in periods of crisis, restructuring or digital transformation, leadership, communication often determines whether employees and stakeholders trust the process. We spoke about that uncertainty earlier. And so what should business leaders understand about communication as a leadership responsibility, not just a PR responsibility? Antoinnette touched a little bit on that, but we'd really like you to go a little bit deeper on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly. One is that I would like to first define what is strategic public relations. Probably that would enable us also understand our role in the boardroom and our position. So strategic public relations, according to Harvard, is the purposeful use of communication by an organization to fulfill two things. One, the mission, and also to enhance its strategic positioning. Underline the word strategic positioning. So if you want to understand the role of communication in the boardroom, it is that strategic positioning. But also they add and say it's a management function. So why wouldn't a communicator be in the management team? It's a management function. It aligns an organization's internal and external narratives with its core business objectives. The core business objectives can be either to increase sales or to increase turnover or to mobilize for more funds for an NGO. So there must be those core business objectives. And the definition of communication speaks that we are actually supposed to be aligned to those core objectives. But also it goes ahead to say that our role is to ensure that communication is an architect of strategy rather than a megaphone for communication. And what does that tell us? That as communicators, we are supposed to sit around the table of decision makers. So from the question that you're asking, how do leaders then understand that their role, the communications role, is a leadership responsibility, not just a PR responsibility? I think for me, you agree with me that the best thing to prove this role is when there is a crisis. That leadership responsibility during a crisis can determine if a leader is capable or not. I'll give an example of the ongoing crisis in the Iran war between Israel and USA and then Iran. Who speaks on behalf of those governments when we are to hear something concerning that war? That's a question we should be asking ourselves. Are they the presidents or are they the PR or spokespersons of those governments? So in communication, trust is how you show up and who shows up. In fact, in the Iran-USA-Israel war, we're not looking out for press releases. I don't remember if I am interested in any press release. I'm interested in what Netanyahu or Trump, they are saying. And that will affect, if you realize every statement they make, either through an interview or through a social media handle, that voice can change the oil price, can change the next action of a stock exchange. And that's how powerful a voice of a leader is important in every crisis management. But also, leadership should know that leadership communication is the visible manifestation of you being responsible, but also being accountable. So most of the times our CEOs take a duck and hide when there is a crisis or when there is a need for being accountable. But it's a sign that leadership, when they speak out, when they are present, it is a sign of accountability and being responsible. Just like Loth has just said, that responsibility comes from leadership. When leaders delegate that voice, the voice of the company, entirely to you, the heads of communications, the signal is that they are involuntarily signaling that there is a lack of ownership over the process, but also they are showing that they do not own the communication. But when they come out, there's volumes of signals that they are telling us that silence is not an option, but they need as leaders to come out and strategically give clarity and also lead in times of crisis and in times of engagement. So leadership usually is determined to be capable under these kind of pressures. And when they own the narrative, the ability of the leader is to articulate and own that narrative. So it becomes much easier for us to build credibility and trust when leaders own this narrative. But also, lastly, for me on this particular question is that communication usually is a strategy in action. Why? We must recognize that every decision a communication, every decision organization makes, leaders have to involve communicators, because sometimes what they say will determine the reputation, the credibility, and trust of that institution. So what is your involvement in what they say? But also, what is your involvement? Usually, I joke around when a communicator is asking me, should we communicate this? Because, of course, we support different organizations. The first question the communicator should be asking, should we anyway communicate? Is it about us shaping messaging, or we are also asking the why? Why should we be able to communicate? But also, most leaders will come out and say, do we need to communicate? But silence sometimes speaks louder. When you don't speak, there's where they say, no comment is a comment. So what a leader doesn't say often speaks louder than what they do. So usually, I think we need also to make sure that our leaders and different institutions understand that that silence that they usually push and say, do not comment, is actually a signal, and it can be interpreted that you lack what to say, or sometimes you're hiding something, you're hiding the truth. So to be human is to speak out. So strategic communication is actually a leadership role. It's a discipline that shows that you're accountable, you're responsible as a leader, but also you align to the organizational values of listening to the different stakeholders. So it's such a very important role for us to take on as leaders.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gyan. That's quite an interesting take, because we do understand that we are in a rapidly shifting world. Things are happening so fast in this digital age. And Mr. Loth mentioned AI as well, which makes things even faster. And in such a time of fast transformation, stakeholders truly need to trust the process. And one of the things that makes it easy for them to trust the process is who shows up and how they show up, according to Mr. Gyan, which is a very strong statement, because we understand that in times of crisis, that is when leadership is truly tested. And how the leader handles the communication during that time is actually going to determine how employees internally are going to react, and how stakeholders as well are going to keep trusting the process and believing it's going in the right direction. But the issue is, leaders are not expected to walk this talk alone. They have to have the comms persons by their sides to make sure they check and keep guarding the communication to know, should we talk? Should we talk now? And should this be how we talk? And even if the leader is going to be the one to show up to communicate, they have checked in the background with their comms person such that they truly show up as the credible, responsible, and aligned leader that they are. Thank you so much, Mr. Gyan, for this take. And we're going to come back to Mr. Loth. And we have this question for you. You've spent years mentoring young professionals and helping shape the communications industry in Tanzania. And so, looking ahead, what kind of leadership and business skills will communicators need to remain influential in executive spaces? Already, they are not very influential, but now that we are talking about it more and more, how should those who are listening to us and who are communicators equip themselves to enter those spaces and truly be able to get a seat in the boardroom?
Now, Kelly, thank you so much. Yes, exactly. I've spent so many years mentoring students from different universities. Under Public Relations Society of Tanzania, we established the so-called Students Public Relations Association in every university that provides or teaches public relations and communications. But also I am working with Toolkit Communications. We have an internship program where our aim is we mentor the young communications practitioners who are directly coming from universities so that we can prepare them being employed or they can fit. So the communication industry is changing very fast, Kelly. And the role of communicators is no longer limited to media relations or publicity. And today, communicators or public relations professionals are expected to contribute directly to the organization strategy, reputation management, stakeholder influences, crisis preparedness, even the business growth. So we are talking on the KPIs contribution as well. That shift means if future communication leaders must think beyond communication itself. From my experience mentoring young professionals and working across corporate, government, and regional institutions, I believe the communications. Can you hear me? I can see Kelly's. Yes. So I believe that the next generation of communicators will need a combination of leadership capability, business intelligence, and strategic influence to remain relevant to what they are doing, especially in the digital itself, in the digital space. First of all, communicators must understand business, not just messaging. You know, executive leaders are interested in outcomes. How do you bring money and how do you contribute the revenues of the organization? So the executive leaders are interested in outcomes, the growth, reputation, the risk management, stakeholder confidence, but also policy alignment and sustainability. So communicators who cannot connect communication strategy to business objectives will struggle to influence decision-making at their senior levels. So the future belongs to professionals who understand finance, operations, market positioning, and the customer behavior and the organization priorities at all. But another thing is strategic thinking will become even more valuable than technical execution alone. And many young professionals know how to create content, maybe message on social media, but executive influence requires something deeper more than that. And the ability to, it's better you have to have that ability to analyze the complex situations. You have to anticipate the reputation of the organizations, the reputation risk I'm talking about. You have to advise the leadership confidently without any weaknesses, and you have to make decisions under pressure at all. Remember, another thing is communicators must develop crisis leadership skills. The future communication environment will even heavily shaped by information, the misinformation, but also AI-generated disinformation. The digital activism is growing at the moment, but also public scrutiny is trying to grow at the same time. So organizations will increasingly rely on communication leaders who can remain calm. They have to protect institutional trust and guide leadership during uncertainty. And the fourth one, what I can say is relationship management will remain a core leadership skill despite the technological advancement. We are talking about the AI, but remember the artificial intelligence may automate the workflow. It's true that we can even automate the workflow, but influence is built through human relationship. And with media, regulators, government, investors, community, and even the internal teams. So the strongest communicators in executive space will be those who can build trust across diverse stakeholder groups. And another thing, one of the most important is they have to adapt. The adaptability, it is seen is one of the best factor that the future leaders have, because it is becoming non-negotiable. And the communication landscape evolves, and it is changing faster than even traditional education system. So, Kelly, what I can see is the future leaders must be willing to continuously learn about AI, digital trends, data analytics, audience behavior, and even what we are called the Ian was talking about what is going on Iran, Israel, and the United States. So the communicators must understand the geopolitical shifts that affect the reputation and the communication globally at all. And the most important thing is communicators must even stop seeing themselves as support staff and start even position themselves as strategic advisors on the managerial levels. And this can even, the executive space can even respect the communicators who bring solutions, not just visibility. So we are not even talking more about visibilities. You have to bring the outcomes, you have to bring the impact, you have to bring the tangible revenues. And the future communication leaders is not simply like we are saying spokesperson. They are reputation strategists, business advisors, crisis navigators, even institutional thinkers. So to sum up, maybe I can say that's where the industry is going, and those who fail to evolve beyond traditional PR functions, I think the risk of becoming operationally busy but strategically invisible. And this is very hard to take it, but we have to make sure that we undergo with this situation. Thank you, Kelly.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot of pressure on the communications person, but it's also a challenge that I believe we can take up, because part of what we do is thinking innovatively, is resilience, is always building strategy and problem solving. So we can do that as communication professionals. But if we have to digest it a little bit for every one of us, Mr. Loth said the first thing as a communication person is to change the perception that you have of yourself as a communications person. And in that light, you should no longer see yourself, we should no longer see ourselves as support staff, but we should see ourselves as strategic advisors on the managerial level. That's a very strong take. That's a very strong take. Strategic advisors on the managerial level. He also put it in other terms, saying you shouldn't limit yourself to the technical function, but look at the strategic function, because that is what is going to pull in more weight in time. And that is what we should be doing. As a comms person, after changing the perception you have of yourself, you have to change the way you move in the business or in the organization. Think out of communication and think like the owner of the business. When you're coming in, you should be able to think in terms of market positioning, finance, critical thinking, and the growth and the profit margins of the organization. So that's very powerful. And also crisis management. That's very powerful and such an insightful discussion that we've had today. And I believe that we now have an idea of why, as comms persons, we should believe that we have a place waiting for us inside the boardroom, and for executives that have joined us, why there is a space that you need to fill with a comms person in your boardroom. Before we get into the Q&A session, I'd like to remind each and every one of us to keep the chat lit up with your comments and with your perceptions. And I would like to know if Antoinette was able to join us again, because I'm so intrigued by what she called a scene.
Yeah,
Please tell us, what is that scene?
No, I think that my colleagues from when I joined, I've seen that the conversation has been picked up nicely on the side, because the network didn't want me to say it. So what I was explaining is this, that for the boardroom, the role of communications professionals are to help with the advice, be able to advise, be able to problem solve, and to be able to prescribe solutions and prescribe. It's just like you've gone to the hospital and then we are doing a diagnosis of what it is and figuring it out. So imagine that there is that aspect missing when decisions are being made. So, and it happens a lot. Companies would eventually come out and they will have to apologize. This week, we've heard in the news one of the heads of the banks calling employees a liability, a low because of AI. It's calling them a low range. Da, da, da. If you have a communication person in the room when you are making decisions, when you are acting, that you would know. The person will point out these risk factors to you to let you know that no, you can't say this. This is the risk for this particular stakeholder that we have. This is the risk for this particular. So the communications professional themselves, this is why I was saying that the communication personnel themselves need to equip themselves with the knowledge, the critical thinking, and the intelligence to be able to make such advice, because that is where we bring value. And so on one hand, we are saying that executives, boards, this is our role, allow us to perform. But we also have to admit that in some instances, these professionals have not done the hard work that they need to do in doing enough research, in asking the difficult questions, asking the right questions about the stakeholder, doing the various stakeholder mappings, the risk, what we need to do, what is going to happen, the early adopters and all of that. Comms people are sitting on gold, right? We are sitting on gold, and we need to be able to use that intelligence to translate into business, helping the business to do the business of the business. Because if you understand this in your advisory, because they will tell you, okay, it's about finance, we are going to do the bottom line and all of that. But a lot of things can affect the stocks. And we've seen it in so many instances where businesses will just boom. We know that if you're a lady in life fashion, you know that Forever 21 isn't anymore, because there were a lot of things that were happening. And if advisory, the strategic advisory role is done properly, if there is a problem and you are listening, sometimes today we don't have the listening systems that will help to ensure that when there is a problem, that intelligence is being brought in, because it's a complex system. And the communication person is the one who has the helicopter view. That's my last point, Kelly. The communication professional is the one that has the helicopter view to see every stakeholder on the map and how they relate to each other, right? Some other individual is just looking at one aspect. Finance is looking at finance. Admin is looking at admin. They are all looking at their various boxes. But we see the top and see how each one relates. And so our work is really strategic in saying that this aspect goes to this, and this also relates to this, and this is what we need. So it's the bigger picture. So I will say all of this to say that if you're a communication professional here, even though we are saying please involve us in the boardroom, etc., you also do your homework and bring that stakeholder intelligence the way it needs to happen.
Thank you very much, Antoinette. That was so insightful. And Olamide says, this is a very interesting conversation. Organizations tend to position communications at the level the communication professional positions themselves. If you show us an executor, you will be treated as one. That's amazing. And it goes right in line with what Antoinette said. She said, comms people are sitting on gold. That's so amazing. So in relation to that, I'm going to go straight on to the only question that we've received so far. And it's a question that came from Divine Grace. And she asked, I think any of the panelists can take it on for 1 minute. She says, in a case where the external stakeholders, already, I'd like to thank you so much for the conversation. It's been so interesting so far. We've been able to go from the fact that comms, first of all, there's a high risk for companies in their quest to change, evolve, and grow. To do it without communication is almost as though they are planning to fail because of the uncertainty that change comes with. And the persons who are there to ensure that there is trust in the process are the comms persons, because they will translate it to leadership without taking the role of leadership of communicating, because people still want to get that credible person speaking on behalf of the organization to show his responsibility and his alignment. And this dynamic between leadership and communication is built within the organization's culture. And the organization's culture, according to Antoinette earlier on, is what you do and not do on a daily basis. So that is what organizations should think about as they're going about their daily work. And remember, the comms person is not just there as a firefighter or as the megaphone. He is there to think strategically with a bird's eye view on all the stakeholders and make sure they're taken into account when decisions are being taken. And they need to equip themselves, however, because the world in which we are needs them to stand like business people, think like business people, act like them, so that they position themselves as strategic advisors to management. So with that, I would like to get this question from Divine Grace, as I said. And she asked, in a case where the external stakeholders, for example, community inhabitants, are resisting change, what do we do? I don't know if it's for Mr. Ayan or any other person, but please, 1 minute to answer this question.
So should I go?
Please go ahead. Go for it.
I think, as I said earlier on, resistance to change is certain. At every change, there's a likelihood of probably 80% that it will be resisted, either by external stakeholders or internal. So we must, first of all, appreciate that resistance is a sign that is going to happen. We anticipate it. Once you anticipate that resistance is going to happen, then you have a resistance plan or a resistance mitigation plan that you anticipate these likelihoods of resistance scenarios going to happen, and then you have mitigation measures on how to manage. And that cannot happen without clear stakeholder mapping that Loth is talking about. Who are the stakeholders supposed to benefit from this change? And what are the likely stoppages or likely pillars or barriers that are likely to stop them from accepting this change? So then you can get mitigation measures that will enable you, one, create awareness on the why, so that they understand from the point of need, because you may be introducing a system to the people that do not need it. I mean, I have seen markets in Africa mostly being built and are not used. And people say, stay on the sidelines of the roads, because probably we did not, first of all, do the assessment of what the people actually are asking for, or we assumed that this is actually the change that is needed. But most times, as I said, we resist change because, one, we do not understand the why. Two is that we do not understand what is in it for me in this change. But also sometimes we do not have enough information that this change is supposed to come and probably sort out this particular challenge. Or most times we do not have the ability and the skills to actually partake and adopt to the change. So change is being introduced to the people. But do you have the people management plan to make sure that those people that you're introducing the change to, it be leadership, it be a system, it be a new market that you're building, have you involved the people that are supposed to adopt or to use that system? Are they in the know, or do they accept some of the changes, or are they being involved in development of the change? If it is a system and I'm a user, there's a likelihood that I may give you input, and communications is a two-way, really. Two-way communications symmetric process that I listen to the stakeholder, I improve, and I iterate the system. And by that, the stakeholder is being involved in the change process. And by the time you finish an implementation of the change, then I can say the success rate is 90% because I have been there. But resistance is certain, but most probably you mitigate the resistance once you plan better and you have a proper strategic change communications plan in place.
Thank you so much. Resistance is certain. However, you can mitigate it based on the plan that you have. And he spoke of the people management plan, asking key questions as, are the people in the know? Are they involved in the process? So as a communication person, we shouldn't just be sure to get the information out there, but be sure to have persons actually involved in the process such that they can really internalize the information and feel like they are part of it, feel like it actually came somehow from their desire to get that change going. And it reminds me of a quote from Antoinette that someone else quoted in the chat, Olamide again. She said, helping the business to do the business of the business. And that's what people management plan will be as well, because you have to help the business do its business by getting the people on board. Thank you so much. We have another question which came in from Treasure Ogo. And the question is, how do we manage crisis professionally? For example, when the owners are the ones suggesting response. I'll take it again. How do we manage crisis professionally? For example, when the owners are the ones suggesting response. I don't know if you understand the question clearly, but anyone who is ready to take it up can go for it.
Let me chip in. Yeah, thank you so much. You know, crisis comes with its own impact as well. But remember, the owners professionally have to abide by the ethics. You know, we communications professionals have our own ethics of doing things and how to manage things. So the owners should not be given chance to contribute or to give the responses. And it's one of the hardest work that we have been doing here in Tanzania as well, because most of the companies and organizations were not involving the communications professionals into their daily operations. And it's better the owners understand that, you know, I am not into this profession, then I have to entrust someone who has professional legitimacy of handling the crisis. So I think it's the professional advice has to go directly to the owners without even distracting, without even damaging your reputation to them, that you have provide your suggestion, your professionals' reviews and the suggestions. And that this has to be documented. Remember, if the owner is putting out, is recommending the responses, can you document your professional suggestions into writings? If the means of the owner fails, automatic, your own professional ways will even work better. And if you see that challenge coming from the owner themselves, it's you now to sit and put into writings your own professional suggestions on how to mitigate the crisis where the government, I mean, the organizations and the company is facing. And if that fails, it has to go with ethics, because at the same time, remember, you are working under pressure and you have to make sure the organization is coming out of the crisis. So give out your professional reviews by writings, whether they follow your guidelines or not, but put into writings. That will save you later. That's what I can say.
Thank you so much. And truly, we have situations whereby professionals or leadership could put their foot in a place that would get the comms person in a tight spot, because based on what you know from your job, you know this will cause an escalation in the crisis. You know this will instead cause more trouble, but it comes as an instruction. And Mr. Loth is reminding us here that we also have our jobs to protect, and we have our image and integrity as comms persons to protect, because out of belonging to a company as an employee, you also belong to an industry as a comms person, and your peers actually review what you do. And if you end up leaving a company based on a scandal which shows that the mistake actually came from you, you will carry it along in the entire industry. Whereas if you put it in writing and you protect yourself, protect your image and your integrity, you are able to maybe lose a job, but not lose opportunities, because your peers are there to support you, and comms as a field that cuts across industries, countries, continents. Thank you so much, Mr. Loth. Is there anyone else who would like to add anything on that? If not, we do not have any more questions, and we will be gently moving towards the close of our webinar.
Kelly, I had my hand up. I think you haven't.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see. Please go for it.
Yes. So thank you, Lottie. I also wanted to add the aspect of the listening system in place when it comes to dealing with crisis. There is a high chance that often the management team or the leadership team believe that a certain approach is the right one. But you as the communication person, as we are saying with the management function, need to bring out that advisory and try to make them understand. So in one of my roles with an international organization, there was an issue of change management happening, staff restructuring, redundancy, laying off, all of that. People were scared, and because the information was not flowing as needed, you know, when it comes to crisis, the crisis doesn't belong to the organization. You are co-creating meaning with various audiences. So for example, if a crisis happens in like a national crisis, there are several stakeholders who are shaping what the crisis means. So if you are a manufacturing company and you have a crisis with maybe some of your biscuits or something that you did, you are not the only one who is shaping this narrative. The media is shaping the narrative of what they think happened. The Food and Drug Authority is shaping it. The audiences, the people who patronize your products, they are all shaping it. They might say it's negligence. They might say you didn't do something. They are shaping the narrative. In the same way, in the organization, the employees are shaping the narrative of what is happening and the meaning, the sense making of what is happening. So that there is not even one truth in saying what the crisis really is. People are interpreting the meaning. And so you have to make sure that the leaders, that's why John C. Maxwell will say that everything rises and falls on leadership, because the leaders, their actions and the way they are also bringing out the communication is part of the narrative, and whatever they do will also shape it. And so you, the communication, coming back to the question, you, the communication professional, needs to ensure that you have given the advice. And so with this redundancy that was going on, I told the management team, we need to have a specific bi-monthly newsletter that gives out information at every stage of the crisis. Even if we don't have a lot of information, this is what they said, we don't have information, we'll give it when we have it, maybe next month, in 2 months, if we don't know. So let's just leave it. I said, no, give when you have, and make it periodic so that they know when to expect information. They know that this is coming at this time, this is coming at this time. And so that even if people don't agree with you, they understand the essence of what is happening. And so in that case, even though there was resistance, the manager said, no, we don't want to do this. People that, when crisis happens, leadership want to hide. So he said they don't want to do this. But when I kept pushing, she understood and decided that we do the newsletters and give the information. And everybody was calm. At the end of the day, even not a lot of people were laid off. But ahead of that, like within 2 weeks, somebody will resign. 2 weeks, somebody will resign. 2 weeks, because they were asking, in the next month, do I have a job? And they will tell them, we do not know. So then they will find someone. People who have been in the organization 17 years. They were just resigning and leaving because it was uncertain. And so I think that the listening system should be put in place. And you, the professional, need to give your advisory role and state what the implications, what is happening, and bring the information to the boardroom so that they also understand what is going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a powerful take. People, and with that newsletter, you came up with a sentence. You said people knew when to expect information. That's
I just
amazing.
wanted to add, I just raised my hand.
Yes,
I just wanted to add
I saw
something.
your hand, Ayan. Just before I get to your hand, I just want to link what Antoinette said with what Lottie said earlier on. He said, we live in a time where companies can no longer afford delayed response. And this is just the same, it goes in line. So please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think what is stopping us from being in the boardroom is exactly that of we delegate our role to the people who we call owners of the communication. And there's need for as heads of communications or as directors of communications to own our job and own the profession and insist on doing right, just like Loth said, because every time we delegate that role, someone else takes the advantage that you're not actually relevant and you shouldn't be in the boardroom. So we in fact, one of the discussions we need to start having is change even the language that we use as communicators. Should we call them newsletters or their accountability reports? Just like my friend Antoinette is saying, she's drafting a newsletter, but in actual sense, it's an accountability report. Should we call them revenue or policy shift updates for the CFO to understand that some of the information you have there is going to impact his revenue or impact the sales? So we must be able to change some of the language that we use because they are used to news releases, events, event management, thematic areas. That's a language that they do not want to hear. But what language do they want to hear? What's a boardroom language? But what I wanted to add on that particular point of crisis and delegating our role, we must know that every time we have a crisis, for a communicator, it's an opportunity. An opportunity to build trust and credibility for that institution. Because trust is actually a KPI. It is a key performance indicator for you. The institutional trust is a KPI for you. So we are trust multipliers. That's what we call ourselves. Institutional trust being a performance indicator means that high trusted organizations can build and give you more returns because they are trusted. They will get more clients, employees will stay longer. So, and every organization, once they have understood this and they have appreciated the role of communication, in the crisis situation like that one that you have as an opportunity, they will definitely elevate communication role to the boardroom. So I'll give an example. I think Antoinette here gave an example of one of the institutions she was in and managing change communications. In 2005, the Revenue Authority here, where I was working, underwent a very difficult situation where they were restructuring. You restructure an institution, but you're restructuring people. And communication in that restructuring process was treated as an afterthought during the process of merging departments. And some people, of course, lost their jobs. Employees became anxious. taxpayers became uncertain because these are the main stakeholders that you're also communicating to. So then you have a rumor mill going on inside and outside the institution. People are uncertain on if they are going to keep their jobs. So that transformation momentum also is slowed down. If it was to take 2 years, it can take 5 years to stabilize. And in fact, during that process, some employees really passed on. They lost their lives. Why? Because they were uncertain, they were depressed. And in that process, you realize that the role of communication is actually bigger. People can lose lives because they're uncertain on the next day. So that's how important it is for communications to own the process, own the role, than taking it as a secondary and then delegating it to someone else. Because our role is really to make sure that we show up at that point and we show our relevance.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I think we have exhausted the questions that we had in the chat. The conversation has been so engaging. It has been so interesting. I see the feedback and I see that most of those who've been with us so far, we're really happy with the outcomes. You guys, I think we have exhausted, I won't say we have exhausted the topic, but I think we have answered most questions that people had in mind when they were joining in. So thank you so much for that. I think we've already gone through the key insights from this conversation. I'll just like to repeat it. At some point, Mr. Loth said future leaders when addressing comms professionals. And I'd like to say here that that's exactly who comms professionals should perceive themselves to be. We now know the value we bring into the boardroom. We now know how important it is for us to be close to leadership. We know the skills that we are supposed to have. And we know that challenge is actually part of what makes us greater. Mr. Ayan said earlier that resistance will come, but what will mitigate it is the way you are going to prepare for it. And now we are talking about crisis, and he says crisis is actually an opportunity for a comms person to build trust. So you just realize that we are not meant to fail. And like Antoinette said, we are sitting on gold. So every challenge is actually an opportunity. Every crisis is actually a stepping stone. And this discussion is preparing us for the boardrooms where we truly have to sit. Thank you so much to the panelists. Thank you to PRFW for these amazing discussions. And of course, its partner, CommsofAfrica. I will say thank you specifically to Mr. Ayan Rumanyika from Uganda, CEO of North Group. We have Mr. Loth Makuza, who joined us from Tanzania, and we have Antoinette Gyan from Ghana. Thank you so much to all of you who joined. And we are here coming to the end of our discussion. But before we close, I think it would be great that we have a picture of the panelists, the technical team. Should we do it now? Can it be done? Can you tell us what to do when the picture will be taken so we can move forward?
Kelly, as they organized that, I really wanted to say something because I'm very passionate about PR being in a boardroom. And I want to speak to the communicators out there, just in just 2 minutes. There's no doubt there has been progress that has been made in changing perception of us being in a boardroom. But in every country I have gone to, I mean, I've been to so many African countries as a consultant, PR has been sidelined. And I believe this is a trap that we need to survive as PR professionals through this discourse that we are having. Number one, we have often been invited to the table only after the strategy is finalized. Why? Because we are assumed to be just messengers. But we must claim our space as strategists. How do we collaborate? The other day, someone was asking me that most departments have meetings and the PR person is not there. Why? You can't keep complaining that the PR person is outside the room. The question is, what do you bring to the table yourself as a communicator? How do you collaborate with other departments at the planning stages? Are you a solution provider? Do they see you as an advisor to them in terms of the needs they have? I was working with a steel company here in Uganda called Uganda Bati. They are largely sales oriented. They speak in metric tons. They don't speak in campaigns. They don't speak in PR reviews or advertising value that you've got. No, they want to see how many metric tons did they achieve this month. So if your strategy does not speak to their sales targets, or if your strategy does not speak to reduction of cost of doing business, then that is not the boardroom that they want you to be in. So sometimes we keep complaining that we are not called to the boardroom, but I think we need to reflect as communicators on how we are adding value to the business needs that we are supporting. The second thing, Kerry and the panelists, is we have wrong measurements in our tools. Whatever we are measuring in terms of our contribution in terms of communication. We have overly relied on impressions, clicks. We have failed to resonate with the board language. The boardroom language is different. They want to hear things like, P&L. How are you contributing to profit and loss as a heads of communication? How are you contributing to the balance sheet? How are you reducing cost of doing business? What are the market dynamics that are likely to face in the next quarter? That will ably give us credibility that we need to belong to the boardroom. So many PR professionals have really struggled, but I believe it's because we are still speaking the language that is not communicating or that is not aligning to the boardroom language. And that is something that I wanted to communicate. And probably as we end this discussion, we understand that we need to go back and reflect as communicators. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ian. I can't stop smiling. My jaws hurt. As a comms person, do you speak in metric tons, or you want to speak to the CEO in campaigns? That's not the language he understands. That's such a beautiful takeaway from everything that we've had so far. So for the picture, are we okay? Stella, Oluwatosin, Esosa, should we smile? Tell us what to do, and then we're going to continue. And before you jump in, please, I would like to invite all the participants to please write their names followed with their LinkedIn profiles in the chat. Please, let's network, let's talk, let's meet. It's an amazing industry we belong to. Communication is amazing and so versatile. So we need to meet across industries, across countries, whatever boundaries. Please share your LinkedIn profile in the chat. So the picture. Let's smile. I guess the person who is taking the screenshot is taking it. Smiling for 5 seconds. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It was such an amazing time, and I'm going to pass the floor back to the foundation for their vote of thanks. I was so glad to be part of the conversation today. Thank you so much for having me. Can Stella please take the floor?
All right, thank you so much, Kelly. We're really grateful to our speakers, to our hosts, and the attendees. Please, like Kelly said, please drop your LinkedIn URL on the chat so that we can network and just build connections beyond the summit. And we've also shared the summit feedback form. We would love to hear your feedback to enable us create more impactful convenience for you. So please, we love your feedback. It doesn't take more than a minute to share your feedback with us. We appreciate your feedback. Thank you very much. And again, to our speakers, to our hosts and the attendees, on behalf of PRWF, we sincerely appreciate your presence, engagement, and valuable contributions. Your participation has helped make this conversation insightful, impactful, and truly meaningful. I saw the passion when the speakers were speaking, and we are really grateful for your time that you've shared with us and for your commitment to advancing leadership and excellence within the public relations and communications industry. And like Ion said, it's more than just campaign, but speaking the language of boardroom so that we can be present in the room and actively drive change. We look forward to building, connecting, and growing together. Once again, thank you very much. Do enjoy the rest of your day. And again, please remember to fill the feedback form. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stella. We were supposed to end at 1 p.m. We still have a few minutes. I believe we are going to leave the webinar on for the next few minutes such that we keep sending in our LinkedIn profile such that we can network. Please feel free to do that. Everyone would like to connect with you. Thank you to our panelists. I was Kelly Mambou from Cameroon. Glad to have been with you. Thank you, PRWF, for having me. Have a great rest of the day. And for those who are celebrating, happy Eid. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.